According to Webster's dictionary, the word resilient means capable of withstanding shock without permanent deformation or rupture, and tending to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. Others have said that resilience is what gives people the psychological strength to cope with stress and hardship. It is the mental reservoir of strength that people are able to call on in times of need to carry them through without falling apart. Dealing with change or loss is an inevitable part of life. At some point, everyone experiences varying degrees of setbacks. Some of those challenges might be relatively minor, while others are on a much larger scale. I am sure each of us has picked a place out on that continuum for what we have been and are experiencing. Resilience does not eliminate stress or erase life's difficulties. Neither is it that resilient people simply see life through rose-colored glasses. Rather, they understand that setbacks happen and that sometimes life is hard and painful. Resilience gives people the strength to tackle problems head on, overcome adversity, and move on with their lives. Resilient people still experience the emotional pain, grief, and sense of loss that comes after a tragedy, but their mental outlook allows them to work through such feeling, not simply surviving, but thriving as they go forward. History is filled with examples of resilience. For instance, there is Harriet Tubman, who escaped slavery in Maryland at the age of 29, then became a conductor on the Underground Railroad. Known as Moses, she made at least 13 missions into the South, rescuing over 70 other slaves, including her family. During the American Civil War, she served as an armed scout and spy for the Union Army. In her later years, Tubman was an activist in the struggle for women's suffrage. Harriet Tubman is remembered as a hero, and she proved it's possible to bounce back from a life of adversity and live a fulfilling life. Although some people seem to have a natural temperament toward resiliency, helping them move through the challenges of life, the good news is that resilience is something you can build both in yourself and in your children. Each of us is capable of learning how to be resilient. Resilience can be cultivated. Allow me to share some thoughts with you about cultivating resilience. First, resilient people reframe their thoughts. They are able to look at negative situations realistically, but in a way that doesn't center on blame or brooding over what cannot be changed. They look for small ways they can tackle the problem and make changes that will help. Focusing on the positive things you can do can help get you out of a negative mindset. Instead of getting stuck in a negative loop of emotion and thoughts, follow Paul's advice to the Philippian Christians in Philippians 4, verse 8, where he said, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." Not everything is good, but I believe you can find some good in everything if you look for it. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21 says, "Examine everything carefully. Hold fast to that which is good." Ask yourself what opportunities might come from what you are experiencing. Secondly, resilient people seek the support of others. Talking about the difficulties you are coping with doesn't make them go away, but sharing with a friend or loved one can make you feel like you have someone in your corner. Other people can also help you gain insight or even new ideas that might help you better manage the challenges you are dealing with. Proverbs 11:14 says that in an abundance of counselors there is victory. We should not seek the company of miserable counselors like Job calls his friends in Job 16:2, who simply talked about how bad they thought Job was. Rather, we ought to seek out and be like those of Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24, who challenge and encourage one another. Thirdly, focus on what you can control. When faced with a crisis or problem, it can be easy to get overwhelmed by the things that you feel are far beyond your control. Instead of wishing you could go back in time or change things, try focusing on the things that are under your control. Even when the situation seems overwhelming, taking realistic steps to help improve the situation, however small these steps may be, can improve your sense of control and resilience. When you face things you cannot control, give them to God. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding, the wise man says in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. Peter says that we should cast all our anxieties on him because he cares for you in 1 Peter 5:7. And even Jesus in Matthew chapter 11 and verse 28 says to us, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." However, true resilience is more than a persistent determination to push on. It is a belief in something larger than yourself. It is an acknowledgement that God is. He is alive and working out His will for His creation, for you, for me. Romans chapter 8, verse 28 affirms that God is working through all things to bring about good for His people. The prophet Isaiah, in Isaiah chapter 64, verses 3 through 4, says that God did awesome things which we did not expect. You came down, the mountains quaked at your presence. For from days of old they have not heard or perceived by ear, nor has the eye seen a God besides you, who acts in behalf of the one who waits for Him. The Apostle Paul would rephrase that in 1 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 9 by saying, "Things which eye has not seen, and ear has not heard, and which have not entered into the heart of man, all that God has prepared for those who love Him." We may not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but resilience comes when we trust the darkness to the Lord of light, who is able to overcome whatever we face. May God bless you as you trust and follow Him this week.